Okay, in that case, welcome everybody to the Academy of the Social Sciences in Australia workshop program information session. My name is Professor Neil Ashkenazi. I'm at the University of Queensland, where I'm currently enduring a chilly morning of about 15 degrees, which I know is probably pretty warm to everybody else, but anyway. So let's begin first of all with a video of the Academy Welcome to Country.
Wherever you are across Australia,
we acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of this land.
The Darug peoples,
the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation,
the Gundungurra people of the Southern Highlands,
the Ngunnawal people of the Canberra region on whose country we are standing,
and all other peoples of this vast continent.
Their ongoing connection through custodianship of its land and waters,
physical and spiritual,
through culture, language and ceremony.
Where sovereignty was never ceded, we pay our respects to elders past, present and still to come.
Well, thank you very much for that, Isabel. I personally am on the country of the Turrbal and the Yagara people. Most people know the Yagara people because the word for hard work is yakka, and we have the Australian expression hard yakka that comes right from this area. So let's have a look at the program today and who will be speaking. We have two speakers who will be able to give you an introduction to their experience with the Academy Workshop Program. First of all is Dr. Sophie Chow. She's a lecturer in anthropology and she's a discovery early career researcher at the University of Sydney. Hi, Sophie. And also Associate Professor Gary Chan. He's a principal research fellow at the National Centre for Youth Substance Research at the University of Queensland. Good morning, Gary. So they will be our speakers today.
Thank you. But before we move into those presentations, I'd like to just provide a brief overview of the workshops program, the basics. And for that, I'll share my screen. So can you all see that? Yep, excellent, thank you. Thanks again, Neil, and to everyone joining us today. I'd like to begin also by acknowledging country. Like Neil, I'm also speaking to you from the Yagara and Turrbal country, which we know as Brisbane. And I'd like to pay my respects to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander elders of this region, past, present, and emerging, and extend that respect to any Indigenous peoples joining us online today. And also thank you to our comms team who's kindly supporting us today, Bonnie and Anna. My name is Isabel, and I've been managing the workshops program at the Academy for the past 2 funding rounds. My role involves assisting prospective applicants like yourselves in preparing their applications, as well as supporting grant recipients each year in delivering their workshops. But before we get into the details of the program, I'd like to provide just a brief context about what the Academy is and why we offer these grants. The Academy of the Social Sciences in Australia is a unique kind of organization known as a Learned Academy or Learned Academy. There are 5 such academies in Australia. The other 4 are shown on the screen. And we differ from traditional research or professional peak bodies in that we are recognized and funded by the government in our mission to promote excellence in research. One of the ways we promote excellence is by electing and representing a body of Academy Research Fellows. Currently, over 700 of the best and brightest social science minds across Australia make part of this body of fellows. They are competitively selected each year from across universities, research institutes, and policy agencies. But we also support excellence more broadly, beyond the fellowship, and especially in early and mid-career research. And an important way we do this is through our grants and awards programs. So I've listed there the 5 that we're currently running, most of which proudly are targeted to early and mid-career researchers. So to any EMCRs in the room today, I suggest that you check out our grants and awards page for more information and to see if maybe you could be applying for one of these next. So anyway, in this context is where the workshop program takes place. These workshops are grants offered by the Academy as one of the mechanisms to promote research excellence, in this case in particular, by fostering collaboration between fellows and the broader research community, including EMCRs. So today I'll be covering the points listed here. However, because the application guidelines already provide detailed instructions on these, I'll focus instead on the thinking and the rationale behind the different requirements, what you could call the spirit of the workshops program, in the hope that this will give you a clearer sense of what's expected and how to make your application stand out. So, starting with the purpose of the program. There are many grants for research out there. Grant programs usually identify a gap in the funding ecosystem and then offer grants for whatever it is that is missing. So we have grants for equipment, for training, to attend conferences, and so on. In the case of the workshops program, the specific gap we're trying to help fill is to facilitate deep dialogue between experts in areas of research or policy where dialogue is critical to advance an urgent or important agenda. So in other words, these workshops are suitable for research or policy problems in the social sciences where there is an emerging issue and expertise is bubbling up in different separate areas, in different disciplines, in different sectors, in different institutions, like separate pieces of a puzzle that have not yet come together fully. They haven't crystallized, the directions are not clear yet. And so bringing together the experts in one room becomes a massive catalyst for making progress in that important issue. The Academy, in other words, wants to facilitate those meetings of minds, closed doors for deep dialogue and exchange, and the formulation of a path forward. So it is very unique in that way. It comes from a belief that these spaces of deep dialogue are critical to advancing and maintaining research excellence. Now moving on to eligibility. Most of the requirements, again, are quite clear, but I'll say the one eligibility criterion we get most queries about is a requirement to include at least one Academy Fellow in the convening team. Mostly these queries come from people who have learned about the grant opportunity but haven't yet connected with a fellow. And so they often ask, is it really 100% a requirement to have a fellow in the convening team? And the answer to that is, yes, but we are flexible. We ask that you at least attempt working with one of our fellows. And there are very many good reasons why. The first is their participation in your workshop is already a huge endorsement for it. They have excellent visibility of what's going on in different fields. And if they vouch for your thing, then it assesses that you're really onto something solid. They also come with excellent networks. They will very likely enrich your workshop that way. And they themselves, as individuals, add diversity and gravitas to the event in very special ways. And it is also important to know that having a fellow does not necessarily mean you have to give away all the creative control over the workshop. They might be keen to contribute, to come on board in the team, to contribute, evenly, or even join in a more mentorship or advisory role. So these things are to be negotiated within each team. But I just want to make it clear that the expectation of including a fellow does not mean like we're trying to impose a hierarchy over the workshop. And in fact, I would say most of the workshops we award grants to are actually run by May conveners being EMCRs. So the Academy welcomes and encourages EMCR leadership in these events. So if you haven't secured a fellow, I encourage you to look at our fellows directory in the Academy website. You can search by discipline, by keyword, by name, and you can contact them directly if you find one that's suitable to your topic, or you can contact us to facilitate an introduction. And ultimately, if you try and you can't, just make a note in the application and that should be fine. About the selection criteria. Again, these are things that are well explained in the guidelines, so I'll only add a few pointers from my experience managing the program. The first thing I'd like to reiterate is about the weight of the different criteria, these 5 criteria on the screen right now. During the assessment process, examiners are handed over the applications and asked to provide a score of 1 to 5 for each of these 5 criteria. And those scores are weighted equally. So each of those make 20% of your total score. The applications with the highest scores are across all 5 criteria make it to the top of the rank, and those are the ones that get funded. So my suggestion, my advice is tend to all 5 aspects in your application. They all count. Don't overdo one at the expense of the others, because it can lose you important points. Second, who will be reading your application? They will be read in full by a committee comprising 10 to 12 Academy Fellows in 1 EMCR. It is a very diverse group. We make sure that there are at least 2 fellows from each of our discipline group panels. So when writing your application, you can anticipate there will be at least 1 or 2 assessors who will be familiar with your topic. They will work within your area of research and will probably be able to pick up any Easter eggs that you drop in your application. But overall, I suggest that you write for a scholarly audience with no expertise in your particular area, which means being very explicit about why your topic is important and how your workshop will contribute to advance the current state of affairs in that area. About the actual event, and how you design the program. In-person events tend to be the norm, again, because of the spirit of the workshops being to have deep dialogue and conversations that were flexible. Workshops typically run over 2 days, and usually it is typical to have a dinner between the first and the second day, and that's a great way to grow networks and continue discussions informally throughout the day, through the night. About participants, I've mentioned the importance of diversity, but something often overlooked is really developing that participant list well. I suggest specifically, I recommend not to send a generic list of participants. So for example, let's have someone from Treasury, like no generic denominations, but actual real names of people with their job titles and the role you expect them to have in the sessions. Will it be a speaker? Will it be just a normal participant, and so on? Having a detailed participant list tells the examiners you are not new to the space, but you're actively developing those networks. And also the funding will go to help galvanize those existing efforts. Along the same lines, we ask in the participant list that you define whether those participants have confirmed attendance. It is hard, but I recommend that at least you try and get confirmation from half or more of the people in your participant list. And again, this also signals your idea is being tested out there and there's manifest interest from experts to attend your workshop. In terms of outcomes and impacts, typical outputs from the workshops include reports outlining new policy agendas or priorities, or new research agendas or priorities. Media articles, such as, for example, in the conversation, are very welcome. Policy papers, policy submissions, maybe the formation of a new research group or research network. A special issue in an academic journal is another common output from the workshops. And all in all, the common attribute to all those is choosing vehicles to take the impact of your workshop beyond the attendees and outside into the broader community and the public. So when you're thinking about outputs and impact, that's what we want to see, that you've thought carefully and about how you're going to make ripples out there. And finally, about budget, it's very straightforward. But if you're wondering, most applications spend the gross of the funding on interstate travel and accommodation for participants. You don't have to, but just know that is how people usually spend their money. And overall, no hard rules. We encourage innovation. We encourage seeking in-kind or additional funding if you can. But again, this is not sort of a must. And lastly, about applying. Again, very straightforward. It's on the website and the guidelines, but I just want to emphasize that this year we're asking participants to apply in 2 steps. First is to send the names and contact details of your convening team via an online form. That's to help us get those names and emails straight into the contacts database. And separately via email to submit the actual workshop proposal using the form that's provided in the website. And that's the document that actually contains all the details about your proposal. And that's the one that is handed over straight to examiners. If something unexpected happens near the closing date or on the closing date that prevents you from submitting on time, no worries, please reach out and we'll be happy to assist. And that's all from me. Thank you, Neil. I hand it back to you.
You're on mute, Neil.
You don't know which one you're on. Okay, right. So I think at this stage we're ready to move on to our guest today. So I'll turn the agenda over to Sophie first of all to tell us about her experience.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you so much to the organisers for inviting me to be part of this webinar, and thanks to all of you for joining us online. I'm tuning in this morning from the unceded lands of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and I too would like to pay my respects to Gadigal elders, past, present and emerging, and also to Gadigal kin, both human, animal, vegetal and elemental. So I'm speaking to you as a recipient of an Academy of the Social Sciences in Australia workshop grant, which I applied for in 2022, together with my collaborators and ASSA fellows, Professor Megan Warren and Professor Chris Beasley from the University of Adelaide. And our grant was in support of a multidisciplinary 2-day workshop focused on how to leverage feminist approaches to care at a time of multiple overlapping crises. This workshop took place at the Fay Gale Centre for Research on Gender at the University of Adelaide in July 2023, and it allowed us to bring together 15 participants from diverse disciplines, including anthropology, gender and cultural studies, geography, science and technology studies, and Indigenous studies, based both at different Australian universities and also overseas. We further had amongst us practitioners, including visual artists, policy advisors, and members of the Australian medical and not-for-profit sectors. Over the 2-day ASSA workshop that we organised, we had the fabulous opportunity to present work-in-progress papers and to discuss from diverse social science perspectives the different crises of care that lie at the heart of contemporary politics and public life, from care of our health to that of others, of our environments, economies, and communities. In particular, and as we pitched in our application, our workshop sought to take this critical moment of crisis as an opportunity to reposition care as a productive intervention and to strengthen critical exchanges between social science experts and community partners, all towards the broader end of developing a vision for more effective ways in which feminist values of care can be translated into policy and into practice. The workshop that we held was also instrumental in fostering deep, sustained and critical conversations around the different ways in which we understand care, both before and during and after COVID, in exploring the benefits and limits of feminist theorizing around care, and in thinking also about why theorizations of care so often do fail in practice, and trying to open different kinds of horizons of engagement. So going back to what Isabel was saying in her opening comments, coming to this workshop as an early career researcher myself was also, I would say, a really fantastic chance, not just to work closely with fellows of the Academy in terms of putting together a grant application, but also in terms of organizing a workshop, in terms of time and resource management, in terms of deciding what kind of outputs, both scholarly and non-traditional, we wanted out of the event, and also, of course, in terms of networking networking with scholars across and beyond the social sciences. Finally, and in line with the outputs that we pitched in our grant application, we have since the workshop been reworking our papers and discussions into a special issue, which is now forthcoming with the Q1 journal Thesis 11 and will be published in the course of 2025. We also designed and published a website about our workshop, including its vision, mission, its contributors, and relevant publications. In more impact-oriented terms, we drew on our workshop discussions to co-author and submit a statement to the Senator, the Honourable Katie Gallagher, Minister for Women at Parliament House, Canberra, in the build-up to the Skills and Jobs Summit. And we're also currently working on a number of other outputs targeted at relevant practitioners, including through professional publications, policy websites, and media outlets like The Conversation. In sum then, ASSA-funded workshops allow ECRs like myself to share knowledge and experiences with experts in the field. It allows us to bring different social science perspectives and experiences into dialogue. And all of that for us in the context of our work allowed us to centre feminist approaches to care more critically and capaciously within Australia-based practices, policies and institutions. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sophie. That's a very impressive introduction to your workshop that you gave us, and good luck with the publications that you're following up your workshop with. It sounds very exciting. So turning over now to Associate Professor Gary Chung K. Chen, and he's going to tell us about the workshop that he organised.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Neil. Can I share my screen?
Go ahead, please.
Yeah. Okay. So let me do it. Share. All right. So can you all see my screen? All right. Perfect. So yes. So this so today I'm going to talk about the Academy of Social Science workshop grant that I applied, and then the workshops that we actually delivered. So first of all, we acknowledge the traditional owners and the custodianship of the lands on which we meet today, and pay my respect to their ancestors and their descendants. We also thank the Academy of Social Science for the opportunity to hold an impactful workshop, and to all our participants. And of course, I thanks for inviting me to speak today. So this is the photos that we took after our workshops. We invite a range of different participants. And in our workshops, what we have discussed is how can we minimize the adolescents' uptake of vaping and related social and health harm. So my background is epidemiology and biostatistics. So one of my major research focus is on substance use among young people. And I'm sure that many of you are already aware that there's a lot of media coverage about young people using electronic cigarette and vaping and nicotine addictions. So, but there's no clear policy how can we minimize that harm. Although in the federal level and the state government level, these products are banned, but we can still see that they are sold everywhere on the street. So the key goal of this workshop is to draw some solid conclusions about some practical way we can minimize the harm. So how do we get know about this workshop grant, and how did we get the whole process started? At the very beginning, we have a Professor Wayne Hall is a fellow at the Academy, who is also a professor at our research center. So he told me about this grant. And then I look into the applications and also criteria for this grant. And then I think this is something that we should apply, because as Isabel and Sophie already mentioned, this grant has very important potentials to make an impact to actual policy. So I contact a few of my colleagues, Dr. Daniel Stepanovic, Jenny Leung, Corrigana, and Wayne Hall, to form a convening committee. We also contact another fellows, Professor Warren Boland in the University of Melbourne. So we have initial meetings, and everyone thinks that this is a really good idea and we should go for it. Then the next step we did is that we then identify potential participants through conveners networks and in key national conferences. So we want to make sure that there's very diverse group of participants, because we don't just want like social scientists, we don't just want epidemiologists, like, because like there's always conflicting view. So to ensure diversity, we contact, like, we have social scientists, epidemiologists, chemical engineer, psychologist, addictions medicine specialist, psychiatrist, public health policy expert, biostatisticians, health economists, and stakeholder from state health agency, like say for example, Queensland Health and New South Wales Health. Then we also confirm the participations before we apply this grant. We actually meet some of these people in key national conferences beforehand to ensure that they understand what we want to do and make sure that we're all on the same page. So we actually meet more than half of those invited attendees in person before we submit these applications. To further leverage this grant and make a big impact, we also confirm co-fundings from participating institutions. So we get another $9,000 additional fundings from participating institutions to host a national symposium immediately after the workshops. So we have a national symposium that is attended by 300 people, including a lot of policy makers from state health agencies, and also the Department of Health and Aged Care from Canberra. Then after we confirm all these, we submit our applications, and so this whole process takes around 1 to 2 months from the initial ideations to the actual applications. So this is some photos from the dinners with all the participants, and also on the workshops itself. So all our conclusions in this whiteboard. We don't have any, like say for example publications, but we have this whiteboard. Of course, we summarize this whiteboard in submissions to the Queensland Parliament investigations, and also the Federal Parliament inquiry on vaping issues. So afterward, after these workshops, again, participants were invited to present our research centers in our research centers annual symposium, which is national centers, because we also receive funding directly from the Department of Health on these specific issues. And this was attended by 300 researchers, health practitioners, and stakeholders from, again, government agencies. And the conclusions from that whiteboard was summarized in submissions to Queensland Parliament inquiry on youth vaping. And we also submit that conclusions, make submissions to the federal level inquiry very recently as well. So this is a photo of myself providing evidence at the Queensland Parliament. And also, like that inquiry was attended by one of the convener, Professor Wayne Hall, and we are also invited to provide evidence at the federal Parliament at Canberra. Myself and also Professor Jenny Leung provided the evidence together with other people in my team. So this is how we leverage the funding from these workshops, meet with a group of national experts on the issues, and try and also attempt to make a real impact on Australian policy on vaping. All right, yeah, thank you very much, everyone. So this is, thank you very much for listening. This is the end of my presentations. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Gary. I think in those 2 presentations, those who are watching would gain an idea of the range of projects that we approve of for these workshops. One thing that probably is still a little unclear to me, Gary, for the $9,000, what proportion of the overall funding was the $9,000 in your project?
Oh yeah, so I just want to make it clear. So like the academy will fund $9,000, and then we also have the other participating institutions that contribute another $9,000 so that we have a pool of a total of $18,000 for the workshops and also for the symposium. So that's how we draw we leverage the fundings from the academy to deliver the bigger impact
And Sophie?
We didn't have any supplementary funding on top of the
Excellent.
9,000, yeah, for our workshop.
Okay, so that's great too. So that gives an idea that when you're making your applications, you may or may not choose to have additional funding, which doesn't really figure into the final decision, provided the budget is appropriate and makes sense. Okay, so thank you very much to Gary and Sophie for their presentations, and of course Isabel. The floor is now open, so please fire away with whatever questions you have amongst the many. How many we got here at the moment? 24 people attending, so there's 20 of you who are attending. So who wants to ask the first question? Don't forget to unmute yourselves when you ask questions.
Neil, we have one that is not coming through as a raised hand, but it's been written in the chat, and it is from Will Rifkin. It says, how does an early career academic find rationalize the investment of time to take leadership in organizing the workshop? Early academics I'm working with often cite a lack of time. Yeah, it is a big problem. I would perhaps I don't know, maybe Gary or Sophie would.
Yeah, Gary or Sophie would be the best to answer that. Especially Sophie.
Sure, that's a great question, Will. I'm happy to offer some thoughts. I mean, I think for sure time is always a scarce resource. The way I try to rationalize the investment of time was to really think about how applying for this grant and organizing the workshop had a deeply synergetic relationship with the research that I was already doing, helping to take it to another level or into conversation with a different kind of ecology of scholars and practitioners, and to really think about that time investment as one that's really about building experience. You know, we all organize events that bring together different scholars. This was just a wonderful chance to do that in a small, intimate setting, building up towards, you know, larger conferences like the kinds that Gary's involved in putting together. So I think the other thing I'd say is it was really important to discuss closely with my senior collaborators on the workshop application how different forms of labor and divisions of work would be recognized, both in terms of acknowledgement and in terms of, you know, from our institutions, but also in terms of co-authorship of resulting outputs and publications. So my advice would be, if you're going to invest that time, just make sure you have some frank conversations from the outset about how all of these different roles are going to be acknowledged and how important it is, particularly for ECRs, for that investment of time and thought to be recognized institutionally on CVs by partners and so forth.
Yeah, like for me, I think this is a very good question. But like it also applicable to like all the other grant fundings as well, right? So because we always need to prioritize different our times on different things. But like for this workshop, I think it's a very good opportunity for early career researchers to build their networks and to collaborate with a group of national experts on particular issues. And especially if you're trying to get exposures to a range of diverse experts, this is a really good opportunity because like, that's not something that you come across very frequently. And when I was applying this grant, I was an early career researcher myself, and I find that it's very helpful to develop my career in a way that I build up a network, start new collaborations, and have a chance to get input from a range of really like top experts in the country. So I think this really helped my career. So I would say that this is something that it's worthwhile doing. And again, lack of time is more about, we always lack of time, like everyone only have 24 hours a day. So I think it's more about prioritizing different things. And for this one, I think the priority on this application and this workshop, I put it a little bit higher than like say just writing a paper, for example.
Thank you very much for that input. So amongst our attendees, you must have some questions. So let's raise your hand or pop something in the chat. I see there are some chats there.
I was just responding to Alison, who asked whether we had examples of previous applications that we could share. I think that's a great idea. We have so far published examples of outputs after the workshops. I would have to get permission from previous applicants to post their applications online, but that's a great idea. And if we do that, we'll make sure to circulate with our list of subscribers. Thank you.
I'm a little reluctant to publish applications. The reason is that once you do that, you set up a template, and then all the applications tend to come in following the template that's been sent in. My feeling is that the guidelines are okay. The committee you can usually, provided the applicants fill in the details, the committee will get a good enough idea of which ones are the most deserving of funding. There's always Isabel, right? Isabel is there to answer questions about procedural issues. And if anybody does strike any issues that go beyond what Isabel can deal with, then feel free to contact me, and if necessary, I can refer it to the Grants and Awards Committee members to consider.
We have a question of Kate raising her hand.
Thanks. And thank you to everyone for organising this session. It's been really informative. Thanks. I just wanted to know, I understand the need to be very specific around the workshop topic and the aims and so forth, but I'm wondering if there is scope or appetite to progress a co-design process in these workshops, and actually from the kind of genesis of a project or something like that, because I often hear that that's an investment in the project process that is missing, and so particularly in trying to foster a new way of doing research and through early career researchers, whether that's something that might be supported by this type of workshop.
Look, what you can do is to just present your case as clearly as you can. It's up to you to make a case that's going to be convincing and compelling for the committee to basically rank your project amongst the others. So don't feel restricted. If something is not within the guidelines, you'll learn pretty quickly that there's an issue there. But aside from that, put in whatever arguments you feel will make your case more compelling. Unfortunately, there's a lot of really good workshops that don't get funded, and the simple reason is that we've only got a limited pool of money available for the funding. So when we get down to the top group that we can fund, unfortunately, there's quite a few excellent workshops that are left below that line. They need to find their funding elsewhere, or maybe apply next year. So do your best.
Thanks.
And we also have another question from Jelena Haynes. She asks, may I ask if independent early career researchers qualify to apply for the grants? I would respond from in terms of eligibility, we do, eligibility is not restricted to researchers working in any particular institution. There is a requirement that at least one of the conveners should belong should work for an institution that can manage grant funding. I would say yeah, the perhaps I understand this question. If yes, an independent researcher can join, ideally as part of a bigger team. Yeah, like a diverse team. That's what I would say. It's the recommendation. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Neil.
There's no restrictions as to where you're employed. The only criterion is that the committee needs to see that you've put together a feasible project, that it's got support from appropriate institutions that can host the workshop, and of course we've got the requirement that you should seek to involve a fellow of the academy as one of the conveners of your workshop. Isabel made the point that if you can't find a fellow who can join your team, my feeling is that you need to have a fairly compelling case that it's an area that simply lies outside of the expertise of any of the fellows that you can find. So it's going to be a pretty strong case. Usually we expect to see fairly strong involvement and endorsement by a fellow, but if not, good, make the case. Is that okay? Am I going there?
I don't think we have any more questions, and we're almost on time to finish up. I might just add that if other questions come, no, Angelina, if more questions come up, in the next weeks, please do reach out. Very happy to assist. I get big and small questions all the time. Happy to respond. Happy to just discuss in details of the details of your particular application. Yeah, that's and I appreciate you all joining us today.
Okay, well, just to sum up, thank you very much for joining this session. We look to having an excellent crop of applications submitted by the deadline this year. Thank you very much to Gary and Sophie for your presentations. It's interesting, and thank you for Isabel for choosing people who put together their applications as early and mid-career researchers who successfully managed to involve fellows and to pull off a workshop in Sophie's case that's resulted in academic outputs. In Gary's case, more on the practice side. But listening to what you said, Gary, I think there's going to be some academic outcomes down the track. We can both see from Gary and Sophie's qualifications that the workshops has benefited their careers. So those of you who are early and mid-career researchers, have a go, because Gary said that there's only 24 hours in a day. Unfortunately, for early and mid-career researchers, sometimes you have to find more than 24 hours, but give it a go. Let's have your best efforts. Thank you very much to Isabel, who is running the administrative side of the program. Also to Bonnie and the others at the Academy for facilitating this process. Also to our Academy president and also to the CEO. The Academy is very serious about these programs. We see it as a headline for the activities of the Academy of Social Sciences, and we look forward this year to some excellent programs. So please send them in.